sportFX went to the PLNU Biomechanics Lab to validate our app against gold standard technology in baseball. Multi-camera motion capture systems, bat sensors, pitch flight tracking tech, and force plates to see how we stack up. We then plan to use this abundance of data to update our models and ensure the best possible accuracy of our tech. We welcome you to join us as we give you an inside look at how sportFX talks to your game. Welcome to sportFX.
My name is Arnel Aguinaldo. I am the director of the PLNU Padres Biomechanics Lab on the campus of Point Loma Nazarene University. If it's human movement, we can biomechanically measure them. We are a baseball first lab, so we've got 6 to 8 pitchers or maybe 4 or 5 hitters on a daily basis.
Tell me, from your perspective, what you think when you see an app like ours that it's basically like a lab like this on the go.
Totally. So it's more than just an app, it's a modality. So the technology, especially in motion capture, has advanced, evolved so much the last 5-6 years that it's now scalable. It's feasible that a kid, a player, a coach could take this modality and have confidence, if you will, in measuring or estimating and evaluating certain metrics that are relevant for, in this case, baseball pitching or hitting. It's how you use these data metrics to make decisions about your health and performance. Data-driven decisions, right? And I think it's great because it teaches kids, what to look for and not just look for the numbers, not just look and what not to do exactly, and be safe.
San Diego is widely considered one of the nicest places to live in America. Some even say the weather is unmatched. But that's exactly what sportFX came to San Diego to get done. Match. sportFX collected data using our own system to help train outputs like pitching velocity, exit velocity, launch angle, and distance, capturing every rep from 3 separate camera angles. Then match that video with trusted baseball data from systems like Trackman. PLNU's lab also gave us access to advanced biomechanical capture systems, including Thea 3D and Qualisys, allowing us to compare our own outputs against detailed body motion visualizations. All that data, the video, the ball flight metrics, and the biomechanics, was organized together to help validate and improve what sportFX sees, measures, and delivers. The irony of having to match, when the goal is not having an equal. Still, match we must, and match we will. All things match.
Asking you shall receive, my man.
But once you're done matching, the focus must shift to the things you do no one else can.
Hey Winston, how can I improve my bat speed? It makes it really practical as an athlete to go through it. Sometimes I don't know all the metrics and I just read this and it tells me a quick fix. Over-rotating my upper body and to feel my front shoulder point at the second baseman. Also said my stride is too long and to shorten it and think early and easy. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. It's super easy. Thanks, Winston.
And how often do you see, especially with youth kids pitching nowadays, more like arm trouble and stuff like that? How much does this sort of stuff help people avoid that?
Again, so by allowing the players, especially pitching, because injuries are prevalent across all levels of baseball, so this allows them to just monitor their numbers in the backyard or sandlot, wherever, and just over time be able to see what's happening with their stress on their shoulder or their elbow, etc. As a nerd, as a data nerd, just getting more valid and reliable data about the way athletes move, and more importantly, why they move. Why they do the things they do, what led them to a certain risk of injury, or the flip side where they just felt good throwing that slider, throwing that heater, and be able to define how that looks like. Take a snapshot from a three-dimensional sense, what that means for the athlete. We can do that now, but I think it's just going to get better over time and be able to take some of the things we do in the lab that is very specialized and be able to get some type of estimate, like ground reaction force or what we call joint torque or joint moments. These are things that are typically specialized in the lab. Who knows? That might be something that a number of these modalities down the line, maybe even next year or two, may be able to popularize.
Now, the analytical side and the metric side can now reach the actual game on the field in a way where it's
and try to speak the same language.
Speaking the same language,
yeah.
Correct, yeah.
I said it earlier, feasibility, right? And so allowing that feasibility for the athlete, for different levels of the athlete, and be able to monitor the way they move, whether it's pitching or hitting, is advantageous, be beneficial at the end of the day. But yeah, feasibility.
It enhances repeatability too, I feel like.
Repeatability, exactly. Yeah. For players, if they understand the data, I think it's obviously very beneficial, and a lot of it's education. I mentioned this in a conversation that we had earlier about young players today, especially in baseball. They grew up with kind of this data ecosystem where they won't pitch without a Trackman or a Rapsodo because they're so used to it, right? They're making decisions about that. And then once they get to, if they are lucky enough to play in the minor leagues or major leagues, now they're inundated with a lot of data. It's up to the coaches, the S&C athletic trainers, to kind of filter all that out. There's a lot of noise. With data comes noise. That's just part of it. And how do we take all of this data, put it into that nice little filter so that at the end of the day, it's actionable. They can make great decisions about what the player is doing when they move. And that's up to the coach. It's about education. And I could tell you when I was coming out of grad school, Major League Baseball was just kind of in its infancy in terms of welcoming biomechanics into the fray, if you will. And a lot of these coaches at first were, they were hesitant. It's like, well, yeah, I've been doing this for 30 years. I don't need all that cameras. I don't need those markers, etc. But exactly. So, but now, they've got with so much education and they see the results. They're learning a lot more, and they're learning how to translate something like you'll see scap load and lead block, which as a biomechanist this makes no sense. But they're learning, if we look at hip-shoulder separation, we're really talking about trunk rotation with respect to the pelvis, things like that. So that, that education, without a formal education, allows the science of biomechanics to spread. So that's, for me as a biomechanist, as a biomechanics nerd, it's exciting.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yeah. Scouts is kind of in the same way, obviously from a performance perspective. Take all the data you get from Trackman or your radar guns, and now you have something like sportFX app where you compare what they're doing from a kinematic and kinetic perspective, what we call movement profile, however you want to define that, and how can we relate that to ultimately some KPI of baseball, right? BLO, easy one. Now you got Trackman. Now you're looking at pitch quality, IVB, and horizontal break. Then we could, let's take a look at their grip, forearm pronation, supination, elbow flexion, extension, things like that. How does that influence the type of pitch? Or, like I said, a pitcher comes in, scout says, that looked good, that felt good according to the player. How does that look biomechanically? So that's where I think the advantage is something like this, where, like you said, it democratizes biomechanics data.
Right.
And I think the key thing is just understanding it effectively to make great decisions about it.
You'll also know how far away is someone, how close is someone to getting that on their pitch. You can see right there in the metrics. Okay, if they just do this, they're close. They're closer than maybe that guy or that guy, and it really can set some people apart, I feel like.
No, 100%. And the thing with movement and biomechanics is whether we do it in the lab or on the field or on the mound, we're really only taking a snapshot for that day and time, what they're doing in that outing. And if you're able to collect more data over time, longitudinally, you've got baseline, you've got history of data that you can now compare. I'm not a huge fan of comparing, Joe Musgrove to the average or the normative, Major League Baseball pitcher, because Joe moves differently from a Tyler Rogers, right? So I want to know, what's the best version of Joe? What's the best version of Jacob, whoever is pitching, and understand. And the only way you can do that is you collect more data. And so from a scouting perspective, along with, kind of the traditional stats that they typically collect and use for scouting, now they got something that potentially could use from a biomechanical perspective, as long as they understand what that data means and how to connect everything, connect the dots.
Speak to how we want to get, for example, Joe to his personal most efficient way to move.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that someone's in their best place?
That's a good question. Again, goes back to performance. What their KPI, it's two things. One, pitchers are really good about feel. The way they felt when they threw that slider or that curveball or changeup, it just felt good. It's always subjective with these guys, right? It always feels, right? And so it's our job as the nerds in the lab or, on the app to define what exactly that means. And so if we're watching Joe from NLCS 2022 to last year, whatever, and, I just felt differently, or coming off Tommy John, for example, right? How, what changed? And we could go to Baseball Savant. You could look at things like arm slot position, for example, and, obviously the pitch qualities and all that. Now we can, if we pair biomechanics data, whether we do it in a lab or with the app, now we can begin to connect everything and define what that means. So we can make a best version of John or Joe. And this is how you look when you felt the best, or when you were just crushing it and went 8, 9 innings, complete game, 1-run game, that's how we define. And then so that becomes, there's no truer baseline to that. I'm not a huge fan of normative data for reasons, because you want to compare to their best one. Even when they're in the lab, if this is the first time here, and I'll tell, our grad students and staff, I go, I want you to turn off the normative data stuff. I don't want to say their stride length is within normal limits. I would say, okay, what's their stride length? If you compare them between their fastball, breaking ball, and off-speed pitches, those three, are they consistent? At the very least, are they consistent? Or is their arm slot position as defined by elbow flexion extension, abduction to shoulder, trunk tilt? Whether you're throwing a breaking ball, off-speed, or fastball. Are they tunneling? Are they deceptive? How do we define that biomechanically speaking? That's a KPI. And so one of the things that I teach my biomechanics courses is operational definitions. I do this in research methods. We have some type of question, a research question that answers some clinical problem, or in this case, some athletic performance, challenge. Now it's our job as biomechanists and sports science to operationally define what that means. So you're saying, I want to make you a better athlete. What do you mean by better athlete, right? Okay, well, I want to be faster when I run, 40 yards. Okay, so how do we get there? How do we define that? Well, center mass velocity, that's one, but there's, obviously hip flexion extension, running extension, or stance times versus swing time. Those little things that can, by themselves, don't make a lot of sense, but if you put them together, they can operationally define some KPI of athletic performance, not just pitching, not just hitting, but any athletic movement. And so it's up to us to work with the coaches to understand, what are they looking at? What do you guys see, or what do you guys determine as a criteria by which you define, oh, that's good performance, right? It could be some, back in the day when we used to do baseball pitching, it'd just be velo. I didn't have Trackman. I just had a radar gun. Okay, well, fastball was 94, 95 miles per hour. Okay, we'll use that, right? What are the determinants of pitch velocity then? So we do that. And for injury risk, through biomechanics, what we call inverse dynamics, we're able to estimate the amount of torque at the elbow valgus torque. Studies have shown, including the studies out of our lab, that increase the risk of a UCL or Tommy John, or for younger kids, they get what's called an OCD, osteochondritis dissecans, where there's a lot of compression on that lateral side. And we found that stuff like that, like torques, is a determinant or a predictor of that type of risk. And so that's one thing we can measure, for example. And with this, if we have the ability to do inverse dynamics, then we can be able to to monitor that workload.
Oh, heads up, Ray.
For this test, Ryan was fitted with reflective markers that the lab cameras could track in 3D space throughout his swing. That means every movement can be mapped with extreme precision, not just where the bat went, but where his body was at every point in the motion. Because the cameras are perfectly synced and their positions are known, the system can use triangulation to calculate the exact location of each marker in space. This is one of the most accurate forms of motion capture available. It is the same kind of marker-based technology used in advanced biomechanics labs, animated films, and sports video games. But there's a reason most players never train this way. It requires markers, calibration, specialized cameras, expert setup, and a full lab environment. The accuracy is incredible. The access is not. That is the problem sportFX is built to solve, bringing high-level motion insight out of the lab and into the hands of real players, using video they can actually capture themselves.
Gone are the days when a player would have to get hooked up to MoCap dots. Gone are the days when a player has to put something on their bat or put some multiple camera, high-speed camera system that's very expensive. Right now, any team, any player, any manager, any coach can take out their smartphone that they already own and download the software for free and then get metrics like never before.
You're thinking way too much right now. You've got 45 seconds between swings. Stop thinking about it. 3, 2, 1. You're good. Woo! Stop thinking.
Did you?